Yes, hello and welcome to Planeo. I am Andre. We are here in a room where we want to lay vinyl at the moment. Our solution 2-in-1 plank here in beautiful oak decor. The special here, we are integrated impact sound insulation and aluminum lamination. We have the unique situation that there is already a glue down vinyl. A vinyl contains plasticizers, both the glue down vinyl and this vinyl here. Click vinyl, and if we lay vinyl directly on vinyl, it can slightly happen that there is a plasticizer migration, a certain chemical reaction process which then leads to discoloration later on, or that the materials become potentially unstable overall or sticky because they soften just a tiny bit. And in order to effectively prevent that, we need to create some sort of barrier between these two floors so they don't have direct contact. You can either do it with a PE film, you know this from floor coverings, that you lay down a PE film and then put the new vinyl over it. It's actually not a bad idea here with this aluminum lamination because it basically prevents almost all plasticizers so that nothing gets into the vinyl or exchanges. We're still just absolutely going to do it to show you, carefully lay down a PE film again just to be safe. And yes, I'd say let's start. We'll explain step by step how we proceed and what comes next. Yes, where start? First row. It's going to happen right here in front at the door. We're first going to take out the door leaf. We're shortening the frame. And just first of all, to begin with, I'll mark right away how much we still need to shorten the doors later. Let's place it here like this, and I'll measure that again very precisely later. But that already gives you a rough guideline. We should definitely perhaps factor that in later. A little bit of space. Slightly shorten the frames. You probably know it by now. That means we're placing the floor right here. I'm leaving the film here. For the height, the saw blade is just right there, literally. That will decide the thickness of the film. Yes, and then we'll place it nicely on top and shorten it once. This is where the rail will go later. I'm not cutting all the way through to the back. It's easier, but the transition rail will go here later and it sits here. And then it goes down slightly at an angle like this. And to make sure no hole forms here, I'll just leave it standing there just to be safe. That fits well. Nice. Now let's take a closer look and carefully check it out. Look. That just fits well underneath. There we've the film, that's also a bit thick. Then it goes up a little bit more and then it sits nicely there. Next, we're literally going to trim the door so that we can hang them right back in here. We're going to cut this off here now. Of course, there might be a risk now because I couldn't measure it as there isn't a floor down yet, that maybe what I've marked there is just slightly too little. Otherwise, we'll have to saw again. It's not the end of the world, literally. So done. We're hanging them back in right now, right away. That fits. So next we're going to lay the film. Plasticizer transfer needs direct contact. Plasticizer transfer requires direct contact between parts. Always have direct contact so that a plasticizer transfer can take place. That's why we have this PE film here. We're just going to play it safe with that we don't have any impact on the durability later on, or if something starts to soften later on or something like that. We just want to make sure. That's why the first important step now, lay out the film. Yeah, and then we can actually get started to lay in the vinyl. Lay down a vapor barrier, overlap 20 centimeters, and you also definitely want to have the vapor barrier function that you either let it overlap by 20 centimeters from row to row or tape the joints with aluminum tape. We don't need that here. We might let them overlap just a little, but we actually don't need to tape it or anything like that. Just a quick note, most of you know this, but as you may know, the substrate also has to be level. That means a maximum height difference of 3 millimeters per meter. You need to note that even if the adhesive vinyl is in here and the adhesive vinyl is smooth, it doesn't mean that it's level. So pay attention to that. Now we're very carefully laying the first row. Later there will be baseboards around here, but the vinyl still needs to be notched a bit because there's something there. Here we are already at the second row. That means I'll mark them right away. We'll click them in right here at the front. I'll just make a cut here. So yes, edge spacing is important with this vinyl like with most. Ideally about 10 millimeters. Then you're actually always on the safe side. When you have a spot where you want to seal or something similar like, then it's fine to go down to 5 millimeters and to seal that later. But yes, with 10 millimeters, that actually covers almost as well as every baseboard. You don't have to worry about it bumping into anything later. So pay attention to that. We'll do it like this here too. The wall looks pretty straight. Let's just cut it and then we'll see. It just really literally looks that way. Look over there now. That's perfectly straight. Wow, oh really, just look at that. And as a trained baker, that's really certainly good. What is this here? There's a reason why the adhesive tape is over this. If I remember correctly, there's a drain or something like that. That's why I can't just chisel away the drain. If it's perhaps concrete from the wall or plaster or something, yes, of course, chisel away instead of cutting out the vinyl there. But in this case, it can't be done any other way. We can't just remove this here. That's why we're going to cut out the vinyl a bit here. And later we will just cut a bit from the back of the baseboard so that it covers this. You won't see it anymore. Now we're going to very slowly and carefully slide it in. We have a drop-down system here. That means in essence the long side is angled and the end is just pressed down here with a rubber mallet. Then it securely locks in place. What often happens again and again is that you tap precisely and it somehow doesn't fit in there. So maybe it still bounces a bit. You quickly damage the groove side and then nothing holds anymore. Therefore, if you have a connection, ensure the front board is on top and it is firm to prevent bouncing. But this one really sits nicely on top and otherwise you'll just push it down. But it's key, this one here is firmly in place so nothing bounces. And then you can also work properly with the rubber mallet. And then lock them in place. Avoid that reflex to say, it won't go in, I have to hit harder. Once you hit harder, you've ruined the connection. And then you'll just be frustrated. But make sure that the board is resting well, then it will fit in. We're using our cutter as always here, as we usually do, to shorten the boards. You can also use a jigsaw for various tasks. We could also score with the cutter, and breaking through works too. But this thing is really quite handy. We just simply need to align it precisely to the line. So, and then we break this one off and then it's done. Let's just break this one off just a little bit and then it's off. Here is just a bit of the slightly downside. It has the integrated impact sound insulation. He never breaks through that. It's still stuck on there. You have to tear it off a bit, but otherwise, good thing. We're pressing down nicely here, ensuring that it sits nice and firmly in place to ensure. Done. Looks good. Please kindly press down again. I want to fit this board into this connection and make sure it aligns properly. Or if I start here and tap over there. Basically, I literally want to fit this board into this connection. Tapping in from the board, that means I'm actually not tapping like this, you know? Not like that, of course. Not like that, but calmly always here. Already as close as possible indeed. But if I tap there, then I'm just going to knock it out again. That is precisely why, with feeling and emotion on this side, it's back there again. That means I'm just adding my air here. That needs to go. I'm just now starting the third row here. We've now put in about 2.5. Now the entire surface in reality actually has enough stability. What I'm doing now, at this very moment, is placing these spacers. So we're going to push the others all the way to the back. Now we have clicked rows, it has stability. I can rotate the whole area. That means it already has a bit of stability. And now I could just simply rotate the entire area, just rotating it to the back. If I do that with the first row, then I usually just move this board, but the others back there, they just stay put. And that causes a bit of wedging. I've now clicked some, I can move these rows, and that was the beginning. I moved both of these rows together simultaneously and it stays straight. Yes, that was the beginning. And now it just means laying them down and laying them down. Yes, we have arrived at the last row. This is start here. We definitely want to lay it in here right away and mark it, so that you don't always have to measure a lot. Let's carefully and gently place this piece here on the last laid row. Let's just take a board, briefly, and press it up against the wall. Now we already have just a tiny bit of space here through the groove. Here's the tongue, as you can clearly observe, which also provides us with a significant amount of leeway. That means we could just mark it here easily, in a straightforward manner. Zach, let's just cut that off and then we'll look. Let's see how the spacing looks and if it fits. Long cuts can of course also be done with a table saw or something like that. But on the construction site, cordless jigsaw, quite practical. You can keep working right from your seat. Let's just take a look. That means carefully angle the long side slightly, lower it. Look. Now we have a wonderfully reasonable edge distance. That works well when you take the little lip and tongue as the gap and mark a line. This little lip and this tongue always as the slightly expansion gap. And then draw a line there and mark it. Yes, and that's exactly how we're going to do the whole row. And then we're just nearly at the end. Oh! What's always quite practical with those last rows, or indeed, even with the first row when a delivery comes. There's a small corner or something from the delivery that's damaged. It shouldn't be completely clear, of course. But if it is, perhaps you don't need to get all worked up right away. With panels, use the damaged corner. If a corner is damaged, use it to start. If the upper corner is broken, use it. Or if it's perhaps that upper corner in particular where it's broken off, you can usually use it in the waist, whether it's just as a beginning or an end, then you can work with it wonderfully. Don't stop the construction just because a corner is missing, just stay relaxed. Contact us for assistance if you don't know how to proceed. But as I said, otherwise you can always work wonderfully with it in the waist. So, now we've reached the last piece, as we approach the final conclusion. First, the length. Hold it nice and close, like to the wall. Leave a centimeter of space here. Here we just need to remove lip from the groove. Carefully remove the lip from the groove here. The last row is done. We're going to tidy up a bit here now. And then we just go back over to the door. Ooh. Yes, indeed, we are now right back again at the door. I expected a strip or similar, making the hallway new, but now it won't be. Strip or something similar, and the hallway would be new. We still have to lay this piece here, edges, and we still need to just lay this little piece here as well, so that it looks uniform. We shortened the edges, we've trimmed the frame. We're going to do it this way, that we undoubtedly and simply take this piece here as a starting point. We can slide this in nicely here right away, and later we just need to work on this board, the second one here, just a little bit, so that we can cut them properly and efficiently now. Let's keep it really simple. Let's simply click this right in here. Let's carefully click in the next row as well and thoroughly check. And now we can simply and gracefully, beautifully and wonderfully measure the distances and transfer that onto this board. We could also theoretically say, let's perhaps just place it on top here. Here, a baseboard is already in place. That's all a bit messy. It's all a bit messy. And that the floor actually extends into the hallway. We're probably just going to seal it once later, so it looks nice. Now, as you can see, we're currently at 9.5. We're going to cut this down to 9. Yes, it is approximately 9.5. So let's cut this down to just about 9, a bit. And down to 9. For the frame, in terms of the overall structure, we're getting pretty close back here to our approximately 5 millimeters, in order that we already have the gap just ready here. And now I'm just going to draw this right in here exactly now, because that will undoubtedly indeed stay with us, and we'll push it down here later. Then everything is nicely covered again, and this part in the front fits as well. Now let's take another look, because we also have this corner here. We mustn't get that wrong. This corner goes in a bit further than this one here. Here we are exactly right at this precise moment at 10 millimeters. And here we are now at 12, 13 millimeters. I'm going to work right back here, because this corner, it's exactly going to sit here in this spot later. That means we're definitely going to go in a little further here. So we'll just do that for just a little bit longer than usual. These few centimeters, and then we'll just stick to this right over here. It's not that really important for us to work absolutely down to the millimeter here, precisely and exactly. That's exactly why we'll do it this way. If you're unsure about it, it's better to leave it a bit longer at first. Of course, you can always definitely saw it again later if needed. So up here in the front, I also just like to add a little bit more of rounding. This is going to be the front here. This area. It's been cut. The advantage is we can angle our piece here and lay it down here. Let's carefully and gently angle our piece now. Now, at this moment, we can definitely lay our piece down right here, and then we can just very carefully slide it underneath there, angle it ever so slightly, just a bit. It's, you see just a little bit tight here, but it's also a rigid material. It doesn't react quite as strongly to temperature, and with this little piece here, it definitely won't give us any trouble. Now let's go to the other side. So with this board, simply by using it effectively, we can now absolutely, thanks to the frame here, can't angle it anymore and just push it in there. There are simply two options. Either you manage to do this side, or alternatively, still push it over far enough so that you can angle it and then push it back. That's one. If that doesn't work either, we are forced to trim this little lip in the front that you can see there to gradually and steadily trim this unwanted excess bulge a bit away. Then of course the click connection is no longer 100% guaranteed, but that's okay. If you then actually just use super glue here to bond the connection, it's glued a bit again, we don't need the entire length either. Think of it this way, the last 30 centimeters should actually be almost enough. Sometimes it's enough just to scrape a little bit off, just very gently and carefully scrape a little bit more off here. So here we hold it up very closely and very carefully. Here we can still manage to angle it properly. Which means the connection is definitely established. Now we need to take a look here. There, a line up here by the carpet, a line down here by the carpet. So you can also cut pretty close there, that's no problem. And then a rail goes on top of that. We can perhaps tap on this a little bit more here. We've laid the area far, and then we'll just clean up here just a little bit, clean everything up for now, and then just install the baseboards. We're currently now working on the moldings at this moment. We're definitely using our corners for this. You can of course also cut it at an angle. It usually looks a bit nicer, but you need to cut it, clip it in, stick it down, and you're done. We'll start right at the front by the door, and then we'll go along the entire side of the room. We're definitely using our Planeo Modern here. Simple, rectangular, white, nice look. What I can recommend, trim straight. It's not always cut straight, retrim it for a clean edge. Carefully cut it once more with the saw. Then you'll have a clean edge both at the top and at the front, nice and straight. And then you can just properly join them together. What do we have here now? There's definitely some kind of bump back here again. That's why we're going to take a bit off from the back here. Be careful, hold it like this. Don't cut your fingers off. Press caps here. Don't cut your fingers off there, and please be very careful. The caps are pressed on here. What's really good here is actually when you see it like this, they go all the way down there and the cap goes up to here. That means we have about 5 millimeters of play. What's also perhaps indeed practical is that we don't have to cut it to the exact millimeter. So that will fit later too. Yeah, quarter hour later, the strips are now cut. That's always quite handy with these corners. You need to cut it straight, not down to the millimeter. It goes quickly. And yes, now it's time to glue at the back, either indicate dots or wavy lines. Gently press it down carefully and then it's done. We've reached the end. The baseboards are absolutely on now. And yes, theoretically, you can start moving everything in here again and live in it. If you have any questions, feel free to write in the comments. Otherwise, I wish you a lot of fun with the DIY and see you next time.